Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in today's video we are going to be answering a question that I've seen quite a bit. Should you paint the back of your tank? Should you put a background in, or just leave it as is? In this video we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of doing all three of those things, so stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We do a lot of videos just like this, comparisons. We look at water chemistry, species profiles. We also do a lot of fish room and fish store tours. With 60 tanks in our fish room, we've always got something going on. So this is a question I see quite a bit. Should you cover the backs of your tank or just leave it as is? Well, I want to look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of three things. One, leaving it just the way it is, painting the tank, covering it with a store-bought background. So the first thing I want to do is let's take a look at cost. Obviously, of the three options we have, not doing anything to the back of the tank is going to be the cheapest. It doesn't cost you anything. And in fact, if your tank is going to be visible from all sides, you probably don't want to paint any of the sides anyway. So when it comes to the cost of the store-bought background, I've got this one here, just opened it. Now this is a standard background that would fit a 24 by 12 tank, so pretty much like a 10-gallon. We could see here kind of a pretty blue. For this background, it's about $7 or so. At least that's what we got at the big box store by our house. So it's obviously going to cost a little bit more. Now when you're painting the background of a tank, I generally, as you can see if you've ever looked at any of our fish tanks, I generally use a black paint. And the black paint that we use is usually an acrylic, and we have a couple different kinds here that I will show you. The first one here is this one. It's the Artist Loft. It's just an acrylic paint, and we've got this Americana here as well. Both of these have worked well for us when we've painted them. Cost-wise, if you were to go on Amazon, and I will put an Amazon affiliate link down in the description below if you're interested in either one of these two paints. We'll talk about the advantages of them in a moment. For about an 8-ounce bottle, you're looking at about $5. Now you'd need a little sponge brush or a sponge roller to put that on. Most people already have those in their homes. If you don't, maybe you're looking at another few dollars. So painting the tank, at least the initial cost when you buy the brushes, it might cost a little bit more. So maybe somewhere around $10, $15, but it's not substantially more. And the nice thing is you can reuse the brushes as many times as you want. Okay, so when it comes to cost, obviously doing nothing is the best, but what about the labor involved? What about actually installing these backgrounds? Again, if you don't do anything, you don't have to worry about it. You're not wasting any time putting a background on your fish tank. For putting the backgrounds on that are paper, something like, again, that we've seen here, for the most part, what I've always done is I've cut these things to size, and then I just use some tape to tape all around the edges. So on the top and the bottom of the frame, and then on the sides, you can use a clear Scotch tape, and that will generally hold it in place for a number of years. It doesn't really take that much time. Obviously, painting the tank is going to take a little bit longer, and I've shown you how to do that in the past, and I will put that video in the upper right-hand corner as well as in the description below if you're interested in learning how to paint fish tanks. But a brief overview, you're going to use your sponge roller, and you're going to go ahead and spread that first coat out all over the fish tank. Wait till it dries, and then go and do a second coat with that same sponge roller. Usually around that time, I also take a sponge brush and push some of the acrylic paint into the upper corners or the lower part of the tank where the roller brush isn't going to reach. And that works out pretty well. And again, you just have to let that dry. Usually the first coat is going to be pretty light. You go to the second coat, it gets a little darker. I like to do 3 coats, and by the time that's done, it's usually in pretty good shape. So obviously painting the tank is going to take a little bit more time. It's going to be a little bit more labor intensive than the other two options. And again, if you're interested in the brushes that we use or the paint that we use, that will be found in the description below. I'll have an Amazon affiliate link down there for you. All right, let's talk a little bit about durability. Obviously, if you're not putting a background on your tank, all you have to do is make sure the back of the tank is clean. Like maybe you get some hard water stains back there, you just wipe it off every once in a while. With a paper background or the store-bought background, there is going to be some more challenges. One, sometimes that tape starts to loosen up, so you're going to have to go back there and retape it. That's actually a bigger job than it sounds. If you've got a larger tank and it's next to a wall, to try to make sure that that thing is up there all the time, that can be a little bit cumbersome. Also, if you get any water in between the background itself and the glass on the fish tank, that becomes a bigger issue. I mean, if you think about it, you might have hang on the back filters back there, you've got cords, you don't have a lot of space to work, so once you have to take that background off to clean and put it back on, that's not necessarily easy to do. Now, when you're painting the tank, the maintenance is a little bit easier. Once you paint it, you're done. That's a great thing. Now, with the acrylic paints that we use, there's an advantage and a disadvantage to those in terms of maintenance. It goes on really easy. If you don't like it, you could scrape it off with a razor blade and repaint it. It's super, super fast. The disadvantage is if it gets wet, like maybe you've got a sponge filter that sprays over the side, or you spill some water during maintenance, sometimes that background can become a little bit discolored. I found when that happens, I just touch it up. It's not a big deal. I think this next topic is one of the most important, and that is the look. The reason we paint our tanks is because I personally feel it looks the best by far. When you have a tank with an open background, you can see the wall behind it. Often you can see cords for heaters, the back of a hang-on back filter, the cords for the lights. I personally don't like the way that looks. One of the best things you can do to improve the look of your fish tank and your fish is to have a background. I generally prefer a solid background, and as you know from looking at our fish tanks, I prefer black because I think for the most part that's going to do the best job of showing off the fish. The store-bought backgrounds, they can be nice, but again, you've got a couple issues you have to worry about. One, again, the water getting in between the tank and the background can cause some hard water stains. Sometimes they will start to bubble a little bit or pull away from the glass, and you can start to see that happening. If you have a larger tank that's pretty tall, and now you have to use multiple background pieces, sometimes you can see a little bit of a line there. That's not a huge deal, it's not totally easy to see, but it's something that some people may notice. All right, so if we were to summarize, not putting a background on your fish tank is obviously easy, right? You don't have to do anything, you don't have to spend any money, you don't have to spend any time, but you're gonna see all those cords, you're gonna see the wall behind it. The fish are not gonna look their best. If you go to the store and buy a store-bought background, that's probably gonna look a little nicer, especially if you get a solid color. However, you do have some maintenance issues that may come along later on if the tape pulls away or hard water stains get in there or the background itself pulls away from the tank. The painted tanks, in my opinion, tend to look the nicest. But again, if you have any issues with water getting on some of the tanks, depending on what you paint them with, you might have to go back and retouch them. Now, I didn't address things like spray paint or other types of paint because I find the acrylic paints by far the easiest to work with. And again, what you do to the tank is reversible in case you want to change it up later. All right, everyone, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.